The Kawhi Leonard saga continues. Now The Athletic has a piece out profiling the infamous Uncle Dennis Robertson, and some pretty revealing stuff about exactly how he operates and why. It kind of makes sense that he'd be pressuring Aspiration the way he reportedly was for the payments and maybe requiring some other money to be coming in. We'll get into all of it. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Donnie Freeman joining me. Donnie, man, I got to tell you, the more we look into this, the more we find out about this, the more it just does not seem like having Kawhi Leonard on your basketball team is a fun experience.
Yeah,
He's not a fun guy.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Because you have to bring Dennis along with you, and it's not a surprise where, like, guys have people around that are interacting with the organization.
Sure.
That's not news. That's nothing new. But it's just he seems like quite the guy to try to interact with. Like, he's always begging for this or that. He always wants this or that. It's just, I mean, at some point, we talked about this with the Clippers. At some point, is the juice really worth the squeeze with Kawhi? Because of all the stuff like tied to Kawhi, the legal battles, the health, the unavailability, all these things. But then Dennis is also in the mix. So just kind of a lot.
Yeah. So let's get into this here. The Athletic piece details what they asked for from the Lakers, specifically being a house, unlimited access to a private plane, this perked my ears up. Guaranteed off-court earnings from endorsements. Huh? Who knew, right? I mean,
that's not all that uncommon either. I would say. I bet it's the no-show part of it now. Yeah, because there was a report that they asked the same things of Toronto, and Toronto actually went out of their way to line up those endorsements, and he still left, and they were mad about that. So he wanted about 15 million, I believe it was, something like that.
Well, and then wound up getting them maybe 28, maybe 48, depending on.
Oh man!
But they also wanted to own part of the team, and that's been reported before. And that when he was told, "Oh, you can't own part of an NBA team when you're an NBA player," well, okay, well, give me ownership of another team. Like, I think it was with Toronto, was like maybe a hockey team or something like that.
Yeah, that was it. He was asking for whatever he could get, basically.
Yeah, which you can't do that. It got to the point where the Lakers told Robertson, "Hey, the CBA says we can't do this," and it got to the point where the Lakers privately laughed at all of these requests that they had. But obviously, all of that matters. This was back in 2019. All of that matters with what's going on now. So the Athletic interviewed 17 different people to get more of an idea of, like, okay, we know that Uncle Dennis asked for some crazy stuff, but how deep does this actually go? This is what one executive involved in negotiations with Uncle Dennis said. There's no beginning and there's no end to what he would ask for. There's a bizarre expectation, not entitlement, but like a willingness to ask for crazy things. And I think that's the best way to characterize this, is that he will. Are there NBA teams that maybe blur the lines on some of those rules? Yeah, but they want to blow way past those lines. Oh, no. We're getting a private plane. You're giving me this. I want part ownership of the team. All of these things outside of what an NBA contract would include. And so when we're adding that context to was there guilt here? Was there fault here in what happened with the Clippers and with Aspiration? Again, this is not proof or anything like that, but it does paint the picture of, if not Kawhi directly, through Uncle Dennis, somebody who would be asking for a lot of extras.
So funny. We were talking about this just a moment ago. Like, Kawhi is this quiet guy. He is probably not asking for much of anything, but Dennis sure will pick up the slack, and he'll get on that phone and he'll ask you for any and everything possible. He wants it all, man. And I like the logic there. Shoot for the moon, right? And just whatever else you can get. Okay, I can't get this ownership. Well, maybe I can get ownership of that team. Maybe we could figure something else out. So Dennis is like always trying to maneuver around. I thought about it, and I pulled up a thing here where the 2023 CBA actually allows for players to participate in team ownership through approved investment funds. They just can't have direct ownership.
Exactly.
So in this case,
part of when people get mad about the new CBA and they go, "Oh, CJ McCollum, why is everything anti-player?" Well, it's not, because players were saying franchise valuations keep going up and up and up, and we don't get any piece of that. Exactly. How do we get a piece of that? Now they can own. My understanding of it is they would own a portion of not a individual team, but the entirety of the league, they would at least be able to partake in some of that.
Yeah, it says the NBA approved a few private equity funds that players can invest in, and that's mostly it. And the same applies for like the WNBA, of course. But in this case, would it have been Kawhi or would it have been Dennis getting ownership? I wonder about that too. And if it's Dennis, does that also have anything to do with the CBA? Because he's like a third party in all this, right?
It's still, I mean, if as long as the NBA can show like, hey, this guy is representing a player, even though he's not officially an agent. If you're representing a player, you're not gonna be able to own part of a team like that.
Yeah, well, if he had his own money and bought his way into ownership, would that also come into question with that logic? I wonder.
You know, as long as the NBA looked at it and said, yeah, but you're also officially representing this player in these negotiations, or unofficially representing a player.
That's where it's all like but it's not hard to find this stuff out, and he knows what he's asking for. You know, I posed the question in one of the videos I did when you were on vacation. Like, I personally don't have much of a problem with them asking. The problem is the organization going to handle this and do what you're asking? And, you know, we were talking about him asking of these things of at least two of these teams. So what's to say he didn't ask for this and more for the Clippers? I'd imagine that he also did. And then other things like, you know, trading for PG, etc. But one of the things that I was met back with pushback was it's more about the premise of it all. Like, if you're comfortable asking for that and you know you're breaking the rules, that is a problem, right? And I can understand that logic, you know, overall. Like, he knows what he's doing here isn't legal in the CBA, and it's not stuff they should be asking for and not able to do. So it's just overall, like, it's just very sketchy.
Yeah, and if you're getting into business with somebody that is very willing to break the rules like that, even after they know, you know, at first you can feign ignorance, but even after you know that it's against the rules, you're still asking for more and more and more and say, well, this is just the way things work. Is that going to create problems for you down the road? And that's currently where the Clippers sit. All right, there is a lot more interesting stuff in here that we're going to get into right after this. Over on Sleeper, I'm taking Kyler Murray to get more than 0.5 passing yards because, of course, thank you for the free square there. Malik Neighbors, I'm going to say new quarterback Jackson Dart hyper targets him and he finds his way into the end zone. And Dak Prescott, tough sledding in Dallas. No CeeDee Lamb, 242.5 passing yards. I'm going to say Dak does not get there. If you agree with me, you disagree, turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Choose two or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code Bulletin, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, so let's take a look here. This is a little bit defending Dennis Robertson and essentially saying that he's if he asked for stuff and he did things, it's not as much of an outlier as he's being positioned being. Basically saying that agents ask for stuff all the time, but because Dennis is not officially an agent, that's where people get upset about it. I disagree with that. I think if an agent, I don't care if you're an agent or not, if you're asking for part ownership of a team, you're asking for a private play. And look, I get it. Some of the true super duper stars in the NBA, these guys are worth way more than what their NBA contracts can pay them in terms of the amount of revenue they bring into a team, their value to a team, both on and off the court, certainly outsizes what the team can actually give them. And so I understand where there would be, because of that demand, it mentions supply and demand here in this as well, because of that demand for players that can do those things, there's going to be that incentive potentially to, you know, bend the rules a bit. But we're not talking about bending we're not talking about, hey, Kawhi, here's the company credit card, go take the team out for dinner. We're not talking about that. We're talking about blowing way past the rules. We're talking about part ownership of a team. We're talking about private jets. We're talking about houses. We're talking about not even paying attention to the rules and saying we don't care about these things. We're talking about egregious cap circumvention that would give a massive, if that stuff's allowed, that gives a massive advantage to Steve Ballmer, who has unlimited money and some of these super deep-pocketed owners. What's at stake is the fabric of the NBA. That's what we're talking about. So I don't care if it's an agent or not. whether it's Uncle Dennis that's not really an agent or whatever, that dynamic is discussed here that, oh, well, people don't like it because he's not an agent. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're asking for those things, the effect of him getting those things could be catastrophic for the league. And that is the problem.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's actually, I didn't know that Kawhi actually did have an agent. I actually thought that Dennis was like, not that he was like literally his agent, but I didn't know there was anyone else that they're kind of talking amongst to figure this stuff out. But he does. His name is Mitch Frankel. I'll have to look into him a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do have somebody else that's in the room with them while they're configuring all this and figuring all this stuff out, which again, just really tells me that they know what they're doing. There's certainly no ignorance here. They know absolutely what they're doing. Frankly, credit to the Lakers for just laughing at them for this, because it's laughable. Like, you can't ask for this stuff, right? And I, like you were saying, I don't really care if he is or isn't his agent. He is representing and speaking for Kawhi in this instance, and you know what you're doing overall. So just a messy situation that we are still looking for a resolution on. But like we were saying last time, this may be something that drags for quite a while, even into the season, midway point of the season, and all that stuff. This is something that they're really going to have to investigate. And I just keep coming back to, regardless of all of this stuff, I don't think like I think that teams help players with housing. I think teams help players with transportation. Like, I think those things are not the craziest, most outlandish things. The ownership thing is an entirely different thing. And then the stipulations around his sponsorship deals, the no-show, the sheer amount of money that he gets relative to everyone else, there's no way to explain that. You just simply can't. He's making up to 48 while everyone else is like below 10. It doesn't make any sense. And he doesn't
talk about bigger celebrities than Kawhi making
like Robert Downey. There's no way to defend that. So like, to me,
Mark
this
Cuban
whole
tried
situation,
to when he said, well, but that was a couple years later and that's just the cost now. Like, but there's no way the cost of getting a celebrity endorsement who didn't actually endorse anything went up that much. What are we talking about? It was like $2 or $3 million for like Robert Downey Jr. and then 48 million for Kawhi. That makes no sense. Especially
28 with 48 is the cap, of course. And then every time, and back to it again, every time the payments were late, another thing came in, and man.
Well, as it said, that's where there's at least that aspect of it, in terms of payments being late and Uncle Dennis being like pressuring them, and then suddenly more money gets invested and suddenly they can pay Kawhi. That has the ring of truth, because they're saying, based on who Dennis Robertson is, this is in this Athletic piece, him being the person who made sure Kawhi got his endorsement money rang true. They're like, that's what he's constantly asking for stuff, constantly trying to make sure that Kawhi or himself or whoever gets what it is that they're after. So again, all of
this, a good uncle right there. Legal or illegal in the CBA. That's a good uncle right there. He's trying to make sure you get paid, man.
I mean, I don't think, look, if the asks weren't so crazy, we're not talking about any of this.
That's the problem, right? Like, he's not doing anything out of the norm here, trying to make sure that Kawhi gets paid here. It's just he's asking for too damn much. Like, what are you thinking?
Exactly.
Stuff that clearly just doesn't fit within the guidelines. I mean, the line is right here, and you're like way past it. You blew past the line, dude. So,
but ultimately, as the Athletic article sums it up, this part of this is on Kawhi. He allows Robertson to operate. There's a vacuum. The lack of communication creates this void, and he just fills it. Uncle Dennis doesn't mind being the bad guy. So essentially, Kawhi is so quiet that I know. Uncle Dennis winds up being kind of the mouthpiece for him, winds up being the bad guy, having the conversations that Kawhi doesn't want to have, and being that personality that Kawhi is not. And I get it. That'll make sense. But that's where you can't pin all. This isn't all on Uncle Dennis. This is also on Kawhi for empowering him to do these things and ask for the things that he has been.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I was bringing up to you, is that I wouldn't be surprised if that's just the case. Like, they are so different personality types. Like, Kawhi is very much a recluse, and he doesn't say very much. And obviously his early life shaped him, and that's fine, but he doesn't say much. He doesn't seem to ask for much, but he surrounds himself with someone that is the exact opposite, for better or worse, that will come out and will ask for these things. And regardless of whether or not Kawhi fully agrees with everything or is just kind of going along with it, I don't want to say that. I don't want him to be a victim in all of this. he certainly is to blame for allowing this situation to exist and happen the way it has and continue to happen the way it has up until this point. It's not like this stuff is new. He's been asking for this stuff and operating this way with the Clippers for years. And obviously teams prior to that, he's tried to do other things. So he's allowed for this to happen. And I think that's a really good way to summarize it, is that because of who Kawhi is, there is this vacuum. And Uncle Dennis is just like, okay, well, I'll take up this space and we'll do this, we'll do that. And all that stuff sounds sweet. It all sounds good. But if they wind up being in a situation where they get penalized for all this stuff, and who knows what that could ultimately be, I think a lot of it's centered around the Clippers. I think Kawhi also needs to be put in an unfavorable situation. I would hate for Kawhi to become a free agent, go to a team, win a championship, and get a max the following year or something like that, where there's a lot of money on the market. Like I would hate for that to happen, because I just don't think that's fair for him to get off scot-free, basically.
There needs to be accountability all around.
Like, yeah,
if,
like
if the NBA proves there's wrongdoing, accountability needs to be all around, not just the Clippers.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. So I do think that we focus a lot on the Clippers, on Ballmer. I think Kawhi, he's absolutely a humongous part of all this, as he, whether it was Dennis or whatever, he's a part of this because he signed off on it. He allowed it. So I think that if there is any punishment, he needs to be somebody that's receiving a big brunt of it.
Yep. Agree 100%. But everybody, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think about Uncle Dennis, the Kawhi situation, and all the twists and turns that we've had from here? Again, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.